Alright, so today I'm going to go over tennis patterns and golf patterns. So whether we're talking about the swing, the mechanical analysis, of some of the joints, some of the more heavily involved joints, and what I believe, really helps get your best bang for your buck. So we'll call this the Country Club sport analysis for now. So tennis players, they're always using their arms. Same with the golfers. So our arms are heavily involved, in the swings. So I would say in tennis, we're gonna have a lot of heavy pronation more so than anything. Okay, whether you're hitting a forehand, pronating. Backhand, you're gonna supinate a little bit. All right, so you're gonna open up your hand. Forehand, you're gonna close it. Serving, mostly you're gonna close it. Very rarely on a serve do you really use supination. Maybe on a kick serve, that might happen. But in golf, you're always, supinating, pronating. So I'd say the wrists are some of the most heavily involved joints in the golf swing with keeping it flush. Tennis, it's a lot of the same too, but I would say, golf might take the cake overall because it's coordination of two hands at one time. So you're gonna think about it that, your hands are locked in. So it's gonna be equal and opposite reaction no matter what. If you're supinating this hand, you're pronating that hand. If you're, so opening this hand, closing that hand, so it's a lot of intertwine there, especially, you get in the backswing, if your hands are a little bit open, that's when you'll see the club face really be open at the top. If it's closed, it comes down the line. So that is a lot of similar patterns. So that's why I like playing golf and tennis, as my two sports. They really help coordinate your timing, especially tennis is a lot more, active. You're going to this shot, and then you're going to the next shot. So you're really just thinking, or you're reacting, not thinking. And then in golf, you should be reacting, to the ball being the same spot every time. Tennis, you have to react to it being in different spots. But in golf as well, you could be reacting to it, a little bit above your feet, a little bit below your feet, whether it's a dustpan lie, pine straw, rough, sand, the drill. So those are, the most common things, Like I said, I'd say pronation, you might use a little bit more single-handedly, obviously, except when you're doing a backhand. All right, so next we'll go over the shoulders. So the shoulders are probably the most important, not the most important for tennis, but it's between that and the ankles. It just depends, You can play with poor ankle mobility in tennis, but you're not gonna be one of the best players. So, your shoulders are getting used both directions every time, whole time. And then in golf, your shoulders are very distinctly patterned, They're gonna be doing the same pattern, but tennis, you'll be up here, down here, everywhere. So tennis uses more of a shoulder arc. While I'm not saying that golf doesn't use the full shoulder arc, it uses it just a little less, because if you're hitting it up here, that's obviously less degrees than in the tennis swing. So this is where we get, to what's more heavily involved. Your hips, I would say, those are a true indicator of being a strong athlete, especially in golf and tennis, because that's where you get most of your power from, is twisting, those hips, making sure they're strong. So in golf, it's in a closed chain, you're attached to the ground the whole time. I'm not saying in tennis you aren't, but tennis, it's a lot more. I can open up my hips a little bit more. I have to close them this way, open them that way. So I use them a little bit more independently in tennis, but in golf, you got to make sure if your hips aren't moving, I promise your ball striking is not at a place where you want it to be, because once you get the hips timed up, everything should fall in line. Your hips are your main source of power, because that's the initiation of your swing. So in golf, as soon as you get your hips fired, you know, and just let that club fall in the slot, it'll be so much easier to get smooth contact. But in tennis, you know, you're having to, you know, move your hips and then run. So move your hips, run. So they're both heavily involved in that favor. But in golf, you know, I mean, it's very important in tennis because you got to use your hips all the time. But in golf, it's really important that you get that full range of motion so you can get that full swing every time. All right, and then for tennis players, I think your ankle strength is going to be your most important aspect of your game. Because in tennis, if you can't run, you're going to lose every single time. If you can't get to short shots, if you have a strong opponent, they're going to be able to, you know, drop shot you so much, and then you can't do anything. So a lot of ground up power in tennis and a lot of moving, so that should be a no-brainer, but maybe not as obvious if you're not a, you know, big tennis player. And then with your neck, a neck is very important for golfers in the aspect of, you know, if your neck's not moving good and the ball's right dead center as it should be, you know, maybe it's obviously a little left, a little right, depending on if you're trying to hit it high or low. But if I'm making a shoulder turn and my neck's just, you know, too tight, like I can't look left. So say, if I want to look left, just like that. And so every time you swing, if you're right-handed, your neck is technically turning left, even though it's your torso more so, but your neck's got to be stable to make sure our center of gravity is right over the ball. In tennis, it's a little less involved, but you can compensate for it a little bit if your shoulders are still moving good. So believe it or not, your neck is very involved in golf, whether you know think about it or not, because you know, whether you're pulling your head through, you know, some people pull it up because it's tight on the right side, but you know, especially like I said, if you're twisting your torso like this, you can see my neck's already engaged and turned left. So when you keep a really strong neck for golf, especially, you know, in your trap muscles, that's very important. And then your abdomen. So a lot of golfers can get away with having poor core strength, whether or not, you know, John Daly, for no reference, he's just swinging off pure momentum. He's got a lot of weight, a lot of force behind the ball naturally. But if you're a skinnier player like me in golf, you really got to have a stronger core, because then your back muscles might overact. You know, it takes a lot of my abdomen to really create power, and I get that from tennis. So that's why I love playing tennis, and I love combining the two sports. You know, really helps me keep my core strength for golf when I play more tennis, because tennis, you don't see many big tennis players. If so, then they're probably playing doubles, but that comes from the cardio and all that, you know, burning a lot more calories in tennis. Not saying you don't burn calories in golf, but you know, maybe if we watch more golf, we'd have a little bit stronger muscles all around. But in tennis, you know, especially you're running so much that your abs really need to stay strong. So that's most of the body part. You know, tennis, you're going to need to be a little bit more lean for the most part. Golf, you can get away with it, but that does not give you any sort of excuse to be fat. And but like I said, there's a little bit more leeway with golf and being able to freeform your weight and just really let your weight pull through. So as long as our hips are moving in golf, we'll be good, and just let the weight kind of follow through. But either way, you know, you have a shoulder injury, you can't, you know, raise it that high. In golf, you know, your swing's going to be affected. You can't follow through with your left arm, it's going to be affected. So those are some of the similarities in golf and tennis. So if you're a golfer and you need just a little bit more work, and you don't know how to make your ball striking better, you can start by going to the gym and doing golf-specific stuff that really helps with coordination and getting the right muscles firing. But I think the easiest way would just be pick up tennis, learn how to hit strokes, and you'll really be able to understand how the ball moves, and then how your wrist, you know, affects everything. So in tennis, you use a multitude of shots. You're hitting it high, low, so, you know, hitting slice, coming away. And so you can really get to figure the angles and all that, and how your body does react, or how your hands react to your body being open, closed. It's all gonna interchange based off where your bottom half is and where you develop that speed and power. So comment down below if this was helpful. More educational and performance tips to come. So stay tuned at Southern Golf Institute, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.